All right, guys. So today we got somebody really special with us. Somebody that's going to share some insight on how he lives and what he feels like is best to move forward in life, which is what we're all about. This guy has been around me for a long time now. We come to meet back before I owned the hardware store that we've got now. I was just a store manager at the time, and he was just getting started in his business. And since then, this guy has become more like family to me than anything else. And has, along the way, he has figured out how to make some money. Justin Hulgan, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. Man, glad you're here today. We got to experience a ride in a Tesla Plaid before we got started here. And man, that was something we could talk about for the whole show, I think. But we got some other things to do today. We
That's
got
right.
some other things that we're trying to get through, and we got some things that that we get to talk about a lot, and trying to get it out there to some other people to help them along the way. So I know a lot about you now, and I haven't always, but you've shared some of that with me and where you came from and where you're at now. And what I'm curious of is like, how do you go from where you were and get to where you're at? You're obviously successful. You know how to make money. You've got almost everything that you could want, and you didn't come from that. It's not how you were raised. It's not where you came from. How'd you get there?
It's just things happen in life. Going in from a childhood, divorced parents, and dreams of doing things with my father that wasn't always there and everything and whatnot. So it's just all the stuff that many people deal with on a daily basis and in their lifetime and so forth. But there's few that actually look beyond that and look beyond that picture and say, hey, I can actually do other stuff. So I started to have that mentality. People in my life were certain ways growing up, and I was very resentful of some of those people and
Yeah.
some of the things that they did. So when I see the pattern, I just really don't want to be nothing like that. And one of them being, there's a lot of people just don't want to work. And
Yeah.
I've always been the opposite. I'd work hard, and I always knew that to get somewhere you have to work hard. So basically, we go out and I'm working hard, and I worked at a call center, and I was working probably 100 plus hours a week, and that's what I did. But then I ended up having a motorcycle wreck. So in 2008, I had a motorcycle wreck, and I was dead on the scene and broke back 10 different places on my ribs, and right side of my body's paralyzed. I was in a coma for 11 days. So
Wow.
we ended up being in the hospital for months, nursing home for a month, and then back into a hospital bed at my parents' house. So I had home health for approximately 10 months that I stayed in the bed. And in that time, I had a lot of time to think. I had a lot of time to be depressed. I had a lot of time just to be like, should I even be here? So
Yeah.
one thing I did, I could not use my right arm at all. And, I kept saying I'm going to be able to use it. After the doctor said I probably wouldn't walk again and I would never use my arm again. And that's what I did. So we go through all this whole mess for a while. And then approximately around 2011, I had met my now wife. I think I met her end of 2010. 2011, we ended up getting engaged. But we went to go, she was in college. And I said, I guess I'm going to go to college. So I go in college 3 years after my accident and started a degree. And I said, hey, let's go ahead and do something maybe business related or finance, something that maybe I could sit in the office. I've always been out working in a ditch on a heavy machinery or something or another. That's what I knew. So then I was like, I'm going to try to find something that I can be successful at and go at it with that matter. So a couple of years go by, I'm getting ready. I'm on disability at this time, and going through college because I said I'm not going to be on disability the rest of my life. I kept doing physical therapy with my arm especially. Got to where I could use it. It used to just literally dangle. No use in it at all.
Wow.
So we go through it, And then I go ahead and started doing a business degree, and then probably a month, 2 months before I finished college, I got a letter in the mail saying disability was going to end and that I could schedule another hearing and so forth. A lot of people would probably say, "Oh, I got a good excuse to go ahead and get it." That was my time. Instead of trying to stay on the disability, I said, "You know what? I'm going to try and start something." I had a buddy of mine that I went to high school with. His name was Matt, and he always told me, "Why don't you start trying to mow some grass? I might can help you here and there or something with weed eating, everything else." Well, I started thinking that way. I went and bought a mower and borrowed my pastor's trailer and had it going, got everything ready. And before you know it, that was in the fall. I had another gentleman that started pouring into me and started giving me some kind of tips on business and everything. And my goal for my business year was to have 40 customers and just continuous mowing and everything. Well, I got that in 2 weeks in the spring.
2 weeks?
When I started. So I did it. But people say they want to work for themselves. Some people want to do it just so they make their own schedule and everything else. But that's where it started for me. And I had told my wife, "You're used to me being around all the time, but when I start this business, I'm going all in." Yeah. And me starting a business, I felt that it was, you have to build the foundation. Your book, you have a book all about being on a foundation. Yeah. And you got to start with the foundation. You can't build the top and then build the foundation later.
That's exactly right.
So you got to start by the
right.
foundation, and that's kind of what I did. And how you do that? It was a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and it was hard. Yeah. So that's where we kind of started.
Let me go back to 2008. I didn't know you. I didn't know you before your wreck or anything like that you had. But I've always known you to be really determined. Did that come from that wreck, or was that something you've just always had?
I've always been good at accomplishing things. I've just always, if I say I'm going to do something, I try to make it happen and do it. Definitely my mind has been stretched with limits, whereas I may have said I need to make $100 today. Now I go out and I say I need to make so many thousands today, and I try my best to achieve that. So as you grow, needs get bigger, wants get bigger. Everything just comes along and gets bigger, but trying to be determined, that's where it starts. But it's only sharpened the sword every time, in the years of business. You just get wiser and, speaking with people like you even, the wisdom comes
And what
together.
I've learned too, though, is you're not just determined for a short time. I've known you for quite a few years, and your determination today that you had back when I met you, when you were getting started in business, it's every bit of what it was then some.
Oh, yeah.
And you're older, you're wiser, but yet somehow you're still more determined than you were back then. And to see that in you, man, it's impressive. And so to me, when you say that's a way to success, if you don't have determination, it's going to be hard to get anywhere.
If there's no determination, there's no success.
And I know your work ethic's good. I know that you're putting the time in, you're educating yourself, you know what you're doing. You've been doing it for a while now, but your level of determination, it stays there, and it's impressive, and it's something for everybody to see, and it's just impressive, and it makes me wonder, so what point in your life, and I know it was towards the end of your college years, but what made you decide to go into the area of business that you did and go towards the lawn and the landscape?
That was the easiest, simplest thing that came to my mind to start. All I knew is disability was ending. I wasn't going to have no income. Me and my wife had just purchased we purchased a duplex, and luckily we rented out the other side, which paid the mortgage and stuff. But we don't always count on that. But even though I had a very small amount with disability, that's kind of what I had to replace. So my first goal was like, hey, I need to work enough to at least make up for this.
Okay.
And we go through it and we just start going and working. And before you know it, it's like we're doing a lot more than I was ever making
Yeah.
on disability.
So you're setting goals, reaching goals, setting new goals, and reaching those.
So I never, when I first started, I only had one goal, and it was to make. Honestly, it was just $35,000. That was just my ultimate all-in sales goal. I mean, at that time, 35,000 was like a good salary for somebody to have, and
Yeah.
a lot of people had. So 35,000 was just like what we thought was,
You could afford to live.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I went by that, and luckily by that, my first year we was able to triple that in the first year of business. So that right there showed me, and there's so many things that happened in the first year of business that helped lead to that. But it's just one of them things. You just got to keep that drive and keep going,
Yeah.
and being determined, because I can't tell you how many bad things failed, and that could have just told me to shut it up and
Yeah.
go away.
Exactly.
But that's what made me stronger.
So I understand how this is, and I live the same kind of life in some ways, being a small business owner too. But how, in your situation, how do you handle being a husband, being a father, and being a business owner all at the same time?
Well, we all got to eat. So my job is to provide for my family. And that is a very hard thing to do, especially with young entrepreneurs starting into business and everything. It's something that I don't think no one ever truly figures out. I think you're always learning every day, because women change every day. And women will always demand more. Your kids will always demand more. Everything's always going to be at this point in life that you think you're doing good, but hey, we got to do this. My wife will be like, we take out the trash. I'm busy, I take out the trash. But since I take out the trash, will you wash the dishes? And I'm like, I just try to help.
Yeah.
But that's life. And, being in a marriage and, you're together, it is our due diligence to do it. Although,
Yeah.
me and my wife, she knows I don't do much cleaning, and she don't like that, but that's just part of it. But
Yeah.
we always have that. So as far as that healthy balance, it's very hard. The most important is to have God in our lives. We always struggle. My wife's very adamant about wanting to go to church and everything. I started out, I was in church all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just, when I started my business, I worked 7 days a week. And
get it.
I go to church,
Yeah.
get off from church, I go back to work. Sunday through Sunday,
Yeah.
it was going at. But, having that now, I have a little bit more flexibility to be off compared to my start of my business. Luckily, we didn't have a child yet or anything, so I was able to work really hard and develop something. And I told my wife, whenever you become pregnant, I want to be able to be there to help you, and I want to be able to be there when our baby's born.
Yeah.
And after nearly 5 years of trying to have a child, I had plenty of time to build what I needed to build on my job, and I was actually able to take off and for 3 or 4 weeks to help my wife when we had her first child, or our only child. And we ended up having the flexibility where I went out for a couple hours every other day and just get some work done and just do jobs, and I actually had employees that would do all the stuff that we needed. So
Yeah.
those are kind of the basics. But as far as that healthy balance, ultimately you got to have your family.
Yeah.
And if your wife demands that time and you don't give it, you get by with it so many times, and then it starts kind of,
It'll hurt your relationship.
it does. And
Yeah.
your child, my child is 3 years old. These first years of childhood, it's very important. I grew up with, my father wasn't really around much, and, I didn't have that, and I wanted it. I craved it. I wish I had it. So that was the thing I did not want to let my child experience. Although at times I get caught up in different stuff, get caught up in work, and sometimes I just wish I just had an off switch, and I've still not been able to find that.
I
My
know.
mind's
I
always
get it.
going. It don't matter if it's a
Yeah.
hobby or if it's racing. My motto's always been go big or go home,
Yeah.
and that's always been me. And I've always gone, and it gets me in trouble sometimes. And
Yeah.
I do a little bit too much stuff, but I'm learning, and like I said, I learn every day that even though it's go big or go home, sometimes it's go home and go big because you got your family there
Yeah.
that's waiting on you, and you
Yeah.
need to make sure. So, basically, sometimes just being in the room is better than anything.
Yeah, so I think some of the best advice I've ever received was something really simple, and it was just be where you are. If you're at work, be at work. Give it 100%. And I'll be honest, I struggle with this to this day, and my wife will tell you the same thing, is when I'm at home, that's the time that I should give 100% at home to my wife, to my children. I can't say that I do that all the time. I find myself drifting away really quick. All it takes is a phone ringing, and you get that sense of urgency. Something needs to be done. And it's business, and in the same token, it's our life. So it's a struggle, but I think if we can be 100% where we are, that's the way forward. I think that's the best way forward, and to set something aside, saying, "Hey, this is enough. This time belongs to somebody else." And give them that time. And I don't know if you relate to that or not, but that's something that I've struggled with.
I think everybody struggles with it, and I don't know. I would like to meet the person that had the perfect answer. That was the perfect,
Yeah,
perfect business owner, perfect husband, wife, whichever. It's just there's always something that comes in there.
yeah,
But just like my wife, she's actually told me a while back, just go home. And when something bad happens, she's like, just go home and start again tomorrow. And that's what, one thing that we'll speak later about as well. But that's just something that you have to just go by. And if you have a partner that actually understands and realizes all the stuff, that she is willing to be like, hey, I understand, just shut it off and we can try it again.
yeah.
It's better to do that. And it's just one of them things that we wish we did this, we wish we did that, and we can't change the past. It's already happened. So
Yeah.
let's
But we
just
can learn and we can grow, and we
exactly
can move forward.
learn from
That's
the
right.
past to make tomorrow greater.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So we've already talked about a few things, but I know to be successful in life, you and in business, and it doesn't matter if you're in management or if you own your own business, but at some point when you're trying to get somewhere, you're sacrificing something. So I guess, what's something that you've been across in life that it was a huge sacrifice, and you didn't even know if you're going to make it through it, but it's been worth it.
well, that goes back to the start of my business. And, my wife was just fully just used to me being there all the time. We were newlyweds, and she was always used to me there. There's a lot of people that doubted me and doubted myself in the business, and some of her family and everything else. It was just one of them things that I went in to this business as there's no plan B. This has to work.
Oh, I like
And
it.
I had to make it. So I had no other plan. I had nothing to fall back on. I did nothing. So I went and got this mower, and I was like, I'm going to make this work.
Yeah,
So the sacrifices, there were many sacrifices. The number one sacrifice, which was my wife in our first years of marriage, but I had told her, and I had explained to her what it was going to be. And it was every day. I would leave at dark, come home at dark. I would do jobs at remodeling stuff, just anything I could get, I would do stuff. So if I was able to work to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning at a house or something, doing a little bit of remodeling, I did it.
Yeah.
And it was
Dude, I
pure
get it.
sacrifice to work.
Yeah.
And that's how I told my wife, I said, I'm not starting a business that I got to work the rest of my life and work really hard. I want to be able to enjoy things and have hobbies and do different stuff. So the only way I'm going to be able to do that is start up now.
Yeah.
And that's where we went back with our foundation. But the ultimate sacrifice was my wife. Do I regret it? Not at all.
Yeah.
Because the only way I would have regretted it if my wife would have left. But, she
I don't know that we
understood.
realize at the time what we're sacrificing.
We don't. We
The
just
time.
we never know, and all we know is we're trying to build something. And
Yeah.
when you're trying to build, it's all in.
And you're exactly right. And your spouse just has to have faith that you've got good intentions.
Yes.
And that you're doing it for the better of the future for the family. And
that's where we were very fortunate with. I mean, God knows what He's doing. So that's where,
right.
We took a long time to get pregnant after all kinds of just trials and just everything that just kept going on and everything. And my wife was very discouraged about it, but I told her, I said, when it's time, it's going to happen, and let's just stop worrying about it. So we just kept going on and just living life, and we did a lot of stuff, enjoyed having, all the freedom we wanted.
Yeah.
But that would have happened without that sacrifice of time. And me and we always want to get together, but it's always time. That's the most important time that's the most important thing you can actually give somebody. People don't realize that. A lot of people are like, oh, $1,000 more important than you coming here. No, our time's more important.
Yeah.
So, that's where people get off the bases and everything. And when you start realizing how valuable your time is when you start succeeding, I believe.
Yeah. And there's value in the time. And you don't get it back. I think that's the equalizer. Everybody's got the same amount of time. Mm-hmm. You do with it what you wish. But when you take that time and really push forward and try to do something good with every moment that you have. Because the thing about money is that we can go make more money. We also know when we're fixing to lose all our money. We don't know when our last moment's going to be on this earth. We don't get that. And I think it makes it more important that we cherish every time that we do have to spend it towards getting better, moving forward, making our family better, making our friends better, reaching out to somebody we don't know even and helping them. Mm-hmm. and living more of that lifestyle while we are here, because we don't know what tomorrow holds. Mm-hmm. There's no way around that. But I do think that the great sacrifice that we share is the time.
I had a youth pastor one time that said money is the easiest thing to replace.
Yeah.
And if you really think about it, it is.
I think so.
Time, you're not going to replace. Mm-hmm. So what you do in that time, you can go choose to make more money, or you can go choose to spend time with your family. If you got to have money to do something with your family, you got to go make the money, but it's there. We all do get the same time. So, I've had that kind of concept of my life with money. It is the easiest thing to replace. Yes, we get stressed and everything else, and it comes along, but at the end of the day, it's just like it all comes and handles itself. And I feel like if you're doing the right thing, and you just, you gotta give, and you gotta help others and everything along the way, and that's just that kind of stuff. It pays you back. No 100%. No good deed goes unnoticed, and that's just where I firmly believe in that.
I think so too. Okay, so we've talked about your past. We've talked about some of where you're at right now, but like I know in your business you've got employees that work for you, work with you, and you're looking for people that are going to help you to be successful, hold up your name, hold up your company that you've started, that you've got such high standards for. What are you looking for? Like, what's the characteristics in those employees or those individuals that you're really looking for to say, like, okay, I can get somewhere with this guy. We can grow together. We can move forward together, and everybody can win. What are you looking for in these guys?
Well, nowadays in time, it's very rare to find them. So if you're looking at it in today's time, I mean, first they just got to show up. I can't tell how many people I've hired in the past and they never show up, or they come one day, or they're late the first day and everything. But if I got a crew, and say I hired a crew leader and they're never there on time, they're 5 minutes late here, 10 minutes late there, they don't come today, and then they got 2 or 3 other guys just sitting there waiting, they're not there. They're no good.
Right.
And that's what I saw. That's what I've experienced in my business. That's probably the biggest thing. So sometimes it's just someone that needs to be there. So you can't do any better if you're not there.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because some of the best workers that I've had in the past were some of the ones that didn't show up or they were late. Until the guys that I got now, luckily, we've got a great crew now and they go, but they've shown me, and that's what I wanted. So, I mean, we go in and, we go about all the different characteristics in employees and all that kind of stuff. But if you're on time and you show up, you got the first step covered.
Yeah.
The other part is being very consistent and working hard. That tells me if you're willing to work hard, no matter what it is, and not complain and cry and whine about every little thing, there's somewhere. You may not be the best at what you're doing just yet, but you got room to grow and you got room to learn what you need to do. And that comes in also next is integrity. We all know of all the employees that likes to go when, that they don't think they're being seen, that they can just go do whatever and just ride the clock or whatever you want it to be done. And, integrity is a huge part of it because they work for you. They're usually in some kind of uniform or something that represents you. And if they're not the way you would really agree with outside of work or on break or whatever it may be, they're kind of reflecting you, and that's where the integrity comes in. What kind of man are you when no one's looking? And I want someone that's full of integrity because that's when people struggle the most and tend to do some things they may not should do.
Yeah.
And then ultimately you got to take pride in your work. And I think if you have the work ethic as far as coming to work hard, you have integrity, and you take pride, all of them just go together, that can actually form what needs to be made out of anybody. But if they can't do any of those, it's almost like you just there's absolutely not just no hope, but it kind of feels that way sometimes.
Yeah. So you're just saying like they could be the most educated person out there, understand how to do every task, every job, every position, everything, but if they don't have those few things that you mentioned, they're not going to be a good employee, and they're not going to be good for themselves either.
And you can talk to many high school, middle school teachers, and they will all tell you, I'm one of them. I was a hellion in high school, and one of my teachers now is one of my best customers. She kind of believed in me, and my other teachers was just kind of just dead to, I was dead to them basically. They wanted me out of there. They just kind of look at it and say, oh, he ain't gonna do nothing. He's gonna be awful in life.
Kind of write you off.
Yeah, and then you got the ones that were really good, and maybe they're not doing bad, but they're still living with their parents and everything else. So there's always been the people that don't go to college. That I think most business owners now are people that do not go to college, I believe. So I mean, that's just one of the things. Education. You can be very educated, but you don't have a good work ethic. It don't mean nothing.
Yeah. And education goes beyond college. I think, even now I self-educate myself more than I probably ever have. Even in college, I feel like I've got a stronger desire to learn now, being 40, than I ever did through my high school or college years. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you share that or not too, but as you get older, it seems like the wisdom starts sinking in, and you realize, the more you know, the more you see that you don't know.
Sure.
All right, we could sit here and talk forever, and we do this a lot, but we're running out of time. So I want to get to a couple of things that really do matter to me, and something that something. It's a story that you shared with me some time ago that really hit home, and I want you to share that story with us. You know, we're both into the mentorship. We're both into, like, you believe in the life coach stuff. Like, I'm really strong about that. I believe everybody should have a life coach, and I believe everybody should be a life coach for somebody that's not where they're at yet. But tell me a story. Tell me the story of the digging the grave and how it impacted your life.
Well, this came from me being in seventh grade. As a punishment, I was doing stuff in school that I got in trouble for, and I was doing a couple of little bad things that I shouldn't have done. So my stepfather told me to write down any kind of sin that I had in my life, and like certain things that I had, that necessarily wasn't bad, and it wasn't bad to no degree of some things, but it was like maybe it was just a bad music or just
Something you knew was wrong.
right, and it's
Yeah.
just not how I was really raised. I was raised in church and everything, but just different things was amongst there to where we had a conscience. And man, he didn't say you should do this, you should put this in there or anything. He's like, what you feel is bad, write it down and everything. Well, I'm mad. I'm seventh grade. I'm just a little rebel at this time. I didn't care. He wants me to go dig at the grave by hand, and we're talking. I think it was like probably 4 foot wide and 7 foot long and 6 foot deep. And
It's a legit grave.
I had a shovel to do it. So I went through and I'm digging it. And I probably got about 3/4 way of it. And he come out and measured. No, you gotta go deeper. You gotta go wider. It's not, you can't fit nothing in this. You can't fit a person in here, like in a casket. So I'm starting to dig one. I'm really mad. So I start digging another one. Just, you think this grave's gonna bother me? I'm gonna dig another one. I'll show you. This ain't doing nothing to me. So I started digging another one, and we got the first one to his specs, and I started digging another one. I started digging another one. Well, I didn't finish the third one, and then I went ahead and threw everything in there and got it and prayed over it and asked God to forgive me of all my sins and everything else, and got everything in and buried it. And that right there, as silly it may sound to some people and everything, it was probably one of the most impactful things in my life. It was working hard to get rid of the bad, and that's what we got to do. We can let the bad just clothe us all the time, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. That burden keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
But if we do, just get it off our chest. Sometimes we just do it by talking to somebody or praying, whatever it is. You actually get it off your chest and get the bad away and bury it. And then that's what helps you. Yeah. So that is probably the most memorable thing that I've had. And I've actually had people that I've told told a youth pastor one time. We were at it was on Wednesday night, and he ended up using that same thing. He took everybody on a bus to a graveyard and gave everybody a big spoon to dig a hole and to write stuff down, and they buried everything at the graveyard.
Wow.
So a lot of people, I'm not told a lot, but the few that I've told, they've actually used this scenario. And I actually had another pastor friend of mine that wanted his son to come, and we did the same thing with him, but I didn't tell him why he was digging a hole. He thought he was planting a tree. And he goes, and then I told him what he was doing, and then he started being like, I'm digging this to do this. So he thought he had a purpose to dig a hole for a tree, but he didn't know the purpose was to get rid of what he was having trouble with. Yeah. And he did that, and it's kind of changed his life too. And he tells a lot of people about the story.
And how long ago was that?
This has probably been about 3-4 years ago. And I have planted 4 trees in that same hole, and every one of them has died.
You're kidding me.
It's one of the
Wow.
craziest things.
You're giving me chill bumps.
Yeah, and I always do it, but I go into it and I'm like, it goes back to where you're thinking, the wages of sin is death, and
Yeah.
that hole is filled with death.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to plant life back in what you buried to die, to get rid of, you chase back after it, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's what it will do every time. So that's something. When I started planting them trees there and I saw it, it came back to me.
Yeah.
And that stuff. So things will always come by you. You just have that open mind, and I mean, God will teach you different things along the way of your life.
Yeah.
Just hey, and that's what it spoke to me, and it's just crazy.
That's great. That's great. Okay. Last question. We got to finish up. I know we could keep going, but we got to finish up. So if there's 3 things that really matter to you that you think would benefit other people, as far as how they could improve their daily lives, like just three things, and you can say it's the things you've been through or whatever it might be, but just 3 simple things about who you are as a person that you feel like would improve, or maybe is even took you beyond what you ever thought into your life. Share that with us.
Well, the biggest thing to me is someone is always better than you. It don't matter what it is in life. It don't matter what it is. If you think you're the best, I hate to break it to you, there's someone that's better than you. And if you think like that, you tend to have an open mind to learn and listen, and things can actually sharpen you a little bit and help you out in your daily walk of just anything, whether it's business or your hobby or whatever it can be. So that's just what I look at it as. Someone's always better than you, and that's how I think on my side.
Mm-hmm.
The next is set goals and write them down. And that's something that I really started probably in the last, I would say probably 4 years, I would say. There's a comedian, he actually has a certain thing, and he calls it a vision board. And he wants you to write down 300 things that you want. It don't matter what it is. I mean, it can be anything, things that you would just never think you would ever get there. Write it down. And a year later, go back and look at it and see what all happened, like you achieved. Well, I wrote down, I didn't get to my full 300, but I wrote down close to 270 things. And I accomplished in 1 year, like over 17% of what it was. And I never thought I would have. I just was writing stuff down.
Didn't even realize what you were doing.
So right then and there, that's where I learned that you got to write it down and make it clear. And the Bible also even says you have not because you ask not. So once you actually have a goal and you write it down, that's where you make your first statement. That's the first step in completing the goal, is to actually write it down.
Yeah.
And you do that, you'll be surprised of how fast things can happen for you. The goals, that's the biggest thing for me, I think, probably in my life. Some people say don't set goals and all this other stuff, but I mean, setting goals for me is, if I don't make it, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So set a goal. If you got to go for this 1 month, work your hardest, do your dang best to make it happen. And if you come short, try it again next month.
And you're still better off than you would have been had you not
I
set
can
the
promise
goal.
you, say if you wanted to, let's just throw numbers out. Let's say you wanted to make $500,000 for this month, and you write it down, and you're used to making $200,000 a month, and you go and write that $500,000, and you work hard and you do everything to accomplish it, but you made $400,000. Well, now you still doubled what you were used to doing. You didn't make your 500, but you got 400. You're already 200,000 ahead.
Exactly.
And that's where people get caught up with goals.
Yeah.
Some people achieve a goal and then they forget about it. They hit that goal and they don't care about it no more in life, and that's it. No, you constantly got to keep making a goal.
Yeah.
Like you always have to have, to me, it's a purpose. It's a drive, and it's every little thing. Anything I do. Some people do better not setting goals and everything, but for me, that's what I do, and
I agree completely.
That's the drive. And I guess at the end of the day, you always got to try to find the positive in the bad. Any situation that's out there, because I can guarantee you, if everything's going great today, there's not going to be much talk about it. But if you go in and you had an employee do something really crazy for you, you're going to talk about it. And that was really bad. That hurt your business. If you got a ticket on the way to work, you're going to talk about it. But if you went to work and, you saw a beautiful sunset and you're like, man, it's a pretty day, you're not really going to talk about it. But if you always try to find that positive, it's going to help you out. The biggest positive that we can ever just appreciate is we woke up.
Yeah.
So if you got that ticket today, shame on me, but it's not the end of the world.
Right.
I woke up today, and that's the biggest positive you can have.
You're still here.
That's right. So if you go in and, we all do it. We all get so fed up and get worked up when things are happening that's bad. But if you can find the positives for that day, they will always outweigh what negative happened that day. Even though you may not realize it and think that it would, it does. And the ultimate thing is you woke up. And my wife, like I said, sometimes it's better just to stop what you're doing and start over tomorrow. So if you're having that bad day today and you keep having a bad day, after 3 bad things of that day, sometimes it's best to go home to your loved ones, hang it up, spend the time with the people that do care for you, and start over tomorrow. If you can do that, it's the hardest thing to do sometimes, but if you can do that, I can promise you that's going to make your life a lot better, and you can learn that way, because sometimes it's just going to keep getting worse that day if you keep on. So I've been there many times.
Oh, I love it, man. I've enjoyed our conversation today. We've got to have, we have probably done this, I couldn't tell you how many times. And to be able to do it where other people can hear it, that's what this is all about. We're trying to help people. We share that in common. We mentor people all the time. And just an honor to have you here today.
You too. I guess one thing we should go ahead and tell everybody, as far as us, this has been about 12 years or so now that we've been going. So I started my business was right at 2013, the fall, and 2014. And we started going in that, and we met each other then, only to know later that we both absolutely love racing. Yeah. And your family's all in it. And you told me over and over, you got to get your family in it. You got to get your family in it. Well, my little 3-year-old daughter loves it too. So not only do we share common that, we like to work, and, we talk on a daily basis about everything. We share a lot of the same hobbies and passions. And
we do.
It's great.
And we fight hard for it, and we do what we have to do, and that's part of the reason we fight so hard through the week, is to be able to go have a little fun on the weekend, even though it's just more work.
You told me one time you got to have a passion, and that stuck with me a lot. And it's with us, and clearly our passion, and we love racing. So we go big or go home, and it's not always great sometimes, but when it is great for that few seconds, it's nothing better.
That's right. So in life, I guess our time is the great equalizer. Exactly. And on the racetrack, it's the surface.
Yep, exactly.
Justin Hulgan, go check this guy out. Hulgan Lawn Care and Landscape. Honored to have you, dude. I can't wait till the next one. I'm already excited about it.
Well, we can do it.
We'll have you on again. All right. Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you.